Hi, it's me, Jen, and in case I haven't mentioned it before, I have curly brown hair that's shoulder length, not at all colored, it's totally natural. Anyway, today I wanted to start a series of videos on how, and I wanted to begin with how I get around the kitchen. Now, the first thing to remember if you are losing your eyesight or completely blind is that working in the kitchen should always be safe and sanitary. So I'm going to start with how I use knives. If you are just beginning to use knives, the big thing to remember always is keep your fingers away from the edge of the blade. So if you are just starting out, practice with something like a butter knife, right? That has a very small serrated edge. And practice cutting, just slicing a banana. Again, with any knife you use, the key to being safe is to always keep your fingers away from the blade, and you really don't have to look. So if you can see my fingers, I'm not even looking, right? I don't have to. And when you feel comfortable, then move on to another knife. I've reached the point now where I do not use a knife. I do not use eyesight to do any of my cutting. And you really don't need to. You just have to be comfortable. And again, remember, your fingers always stay away from the blade. As long as you're doing that, you'll be fine. And if you go into some of the finer restaurants, you'll see that chefs rarely look at their fingers. My next how-to in the kitchen involves being sanitary. If you have to use your sense of touch where you can't see something, such as cooking ground beef and making sure it's crumbled, use disposable gloves. You can buy them at the dollar store. I think they come in packs of 100. Use the gloves if you need to touch meat, or if you need to touch, say, cookie dough to make sure it's the right consistency, because you never want to touch food directly, and you certainly don't want to get food under your fingernails, so just put on the gloves. Unfortunately, it's not great for the environment because you do have to throw them away afterward, but it is a way that you can use your sense of touch to help you in the kitchen. Another question I get often about how I work in the kitchen is, how do I pour without spilling? Well, I can tell you I use funnels quite a bit. You can get a 3-pack of funnels for relatively cheap, and I often will put a funnel inside a mug if I'm pouring. It just gives me a wider mouth with less chance of pouring. I also do a lot of my pouring over the sink if it's something as simple as filling up a glass with water. Another trick I've used over the years is remember that you don't always have to free pour. For example, if I need a teaspoon of a liquid, I can often pour some of that liquid into a bowl and then just scoop out the liquid and use it that way. And then again, the remainder, I use my funnel and I pour it right back into the bottle. Another thing that helps me in the kitchen is I have my appliances marked with puff paint. If you cannot see this, know that I have my timer and my bake button and my up and down temperature buttons marked with puff paint. Now remember I said you can use the resource 211? That connected me with a local assistant who was able to come out to my house and mark my washer, my dryer, and my oven with the puff paint that has helped me to cook without having to be able to read the buttons on the oven. I want to go back to the Echo Dot, which I referred to in another video. This is a full Echo, and Amazon puts this one out. There are comparable ones. If you get the Dot, they start at $20. This is a handy kitchen aid for cooking. I never look at cookbooks anymore, and all I have to do is ask the Echo to pull up a recipe, and I am able to find any number of recipes, and that's a handy device to have in the kitchen. Another thing to remember in the kitchen, in addition to placing your cans and different food items in the same place each time is to start using your sense to pick up on the differences between cans and jars. For example, I never have to look because I know that this is pepper. I know it's black pepper. It always comes in a rectangular, small metal rectangular container. I know from feel that this is olive oil. And with cans, it's a little bit trickier, but feel the weight of the can, the size of the can. For example, some cans, soup cans, always have a pull-off lid. Is the can heavy? Is it solid? This is liquidy, and I can hear that. It's a larger can, so I'm gonna guess it's tomatoes. Peanut butter jars, they always have a ridged cover for some reason, which I have never been able to understand. Probably because when you get peanut butter on your hand, you need to be able to still open the jar, but it always has that ridged cover. So get into the habit of feeling the different containers that food comes in, and you might surprise yourself by being able to tell the difference. So there are some ways that can make your spices easier to find. It's not perfect, but two things that I do is, one, I always keep my spices in alphabetical order, okay? And two is I use what's called a Braille labeler. You can buy one new, they're about $30, so they're not cheap, but they can be really handy because they can label things with in print or in Braille. If you don't read Braille though, I would use the print side, and I put a Braille label on each top of my jar depending on what it is. And then when I go to use that spice, I can read the jar and find out what the spice is. For example, this is bay seasoning. I think I'm probably out. Anyway, that helps, and I always put it back in alphabetical order. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me, and please share my video if you know someone that they might help. Thanks for watching. Bye.